Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about joining a team. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, "Hi Frederick, thank you for your videos. They help a lot." No worries, I'm glad that you like them. I have a question for you and I would appreciate it if you could take some time to give me an answer. I recently switched to a big company in Russia, and apparently it's the Russian Google. And besides the main search engine, they have tons of projects. Right now they allow new developers to work on 3 to 4 projects for 2 weeks and then decide where they want to work. 2 projects were chosen by the company. I don't like them, to be honest, and I'm finishing my 2 weeks in the second team. And as I'm finishing my 2 weeks in the second team, I need to decide where I'll go next. So my question would be what would you look for in such a situation? I'm lucky to have many options, but can't make a definitive decision. I've talked with 8 teams, and out of them there are a few options: wiki and forms, banner ads, messenger, B2B solutions, R&D team, HTML5 games platform, QA work, direct report generation app. Dude, you're letting a little bit of your business logic leak, like business domain knowledge leak over here. Like it's spilling all over my face. I don't know what to do with it. I am interested in the first 3 teams, but I still don't feel that it's 100% something that I want. Banner ads seems to be a good team, but I'll worry that I'll detach from the real world development, since they're really only working with flexible widgets that would work on any page, but I don't think that something like application architecture will be something you need to worry about. Messenger is interesting from a technical view, but I'm not sure where it will go, since the product seems pretty developed already. So what is your perspective on this situation? What would you look for in my situation? I'm sure that I'm most likely overthinking too much. You think? Yeah. But I would like to hear your perspective, as you are way more experienced than me. Thanks a lot for the videos and advice that you give. It helps a lot. Just breathe, dude. It's okay. I know. I'd like to think that I know sort of what you're going through here. But yeah, let's walk you through it. So this is of course just me giving you my thoughts on, because this is the thing, guys. Like there are so many books by people who are much more invested in trying to sell you the idea that they have the secrets to how to pick the right job or how to get the right role and things like that. And their hair is so nice, and they're in very nice outfits, and they look very professional with stock photos of themselves on their book cover, where they will give you the 10 top tips to get a promotion and all of this stuff. That's not me. That's not me at all. I am this 30-something, I can't even remember, 34? Yeah, something like that, dude who's just gonna tell you what I've seen work. And you can take it for what it is. All I can tell you is that for every single time I've done this, I have come out happier for the fact that I went through, like that I made my decisions based on this. And I have 3 things that I always consider when I pick any place of work or a teams or anything like that. If we're in this case, it's specifically a team. So the first thing is, and this is in a hierarchy. Number 1, what will develop me the most? That is the most important thing always. The reason why it is the most important thing is because your market value as a software developer does not end with the company that you are at. In other words, if you go to a company and work on a shitty project with irrelevant tools that doesn't develop you, or your career isn't going upwards or something like that, it is not, then you have already stagnated. You've already reached a point where if you're not learning or taking on more responsibility or anything like that, then by definition your career has stopped. It's okay if you don't want to develop more, but it is also a risk, because the thing that is paying your salary is the skills that you have. And if you're not good at what you do, then the clock is ticking for you in IT. It's that simple. If you want another job or you want to move around or something like that, the worst thing in the world is to realize that you're actually not as good as you thought, or your skills are irrelevant. And I have friends who work not as programmers, but they work in support and things like that, and they look surprised, or like they kind of bitterly realize that, wow, after working at this big company since I was 19 and I know all their internal systems, I'm not worth a goddamn thing on the market because nobody else works this way. So they're stuck because they're not willing to re-educate themselves, and they're not willing to take a pay dive or things like that. So it's a sucky situation, basically. That's number one. What will develop me the most? Second thing I always consider is, what is the state of the team? Because the team is very important. If you have a bunch, if you, I mean, even in you don't have to have like the happiest team in the world, but you have to have a team that is fairly stable. Because if you're dealing with just people who are either like lone wolves, or like they're aggressive, or like they just create a hostile work environment, you're gonna hate your job. And if all your internal process is just basically a big fucking hack where you can't do anything because all the people around you are either completely incompetent or so opinionated and philosophical that nothing meaningful can get done, you're also gonna you're gonna have a bad time. That's what's gonna happen. So the stability of the team is the second thing I always consider. And because if you're in a stable team, even if it's not your favorite people in the world, if it's stable, that means that you can focus on your learning and your development. And in many cases, you will learn a lot from the people that you work with, even if they're not people you might hang out with in your spare time. They might have useful lessons, but they have to be stable and decent developers for that to be possible. Otherwise, they're just gonna get in the way. And then third and lastly, I always think about what is the importance of the project. Why is this relevant? Well, because if you take the responsibility, let's say that you join a team which is part of the main business, and that's kind of where the business mindset comes in. If you understand how a company works and what they value, which pieces within the company is, like which team works on what piece and what piece signifies within the whole structure of the company, you all have started to understand that some of the projects are experimental and some of them are legacy projects, and some are really, really critical to the money or to some other part that is super, super important. That's where you want to be. That's the sweet spot. The high stakes projects that ideally are most central and critical to the success of the company, that's where you want to be. Because that is where one part you're going to involve your CV the most. Because the more intimate knowledge you have of high stakes business logic, the better a picture you're going to get of how this company works, and also how the entire industry around them, like whatever the company's doing, you will get an understanding of that. I will say that they actually said that at one point. Probably the most lucrative business logic that you can learn, if you say in the startup world or things like that, or even in banking and so forth, is the finance logic, like the financial structures of companies that handle payments and things like that. That is almost worth picking a job over if you get to work with the payment systems. That means it's a complete nightmare in terms of business requirements and things like that, and all the legal aspects here in Europe at the very least. But the knowledge is insane. It is so high value that you will make serious money from it if you have it. That's not always the case, but at the very least it is something to consider. The domain knowledge of the more important teams will teach you a lot in the company about how it works and how that entire industry works. But it also has a secondary value that is not just for your CV, it is for your internal market value, your company value. Because the high stakes projects, the people who get really good at that, you are automatically exposed to a large part of the system. And if you're working on the main things, that means that you have the most important knowledge, the most important technical knowledge. That puts you on the shortlist for being promoted. But if you work on a low stakes ass project that you don't really know how, if it's legacy or if it's something that isn't really prioritized, you have no idea if you're even going to have a job tomorrow. I mean, sure, you could get fired, or you can they can downsize even in like a really high stakes project, but it's less risk. If you work at a bad project, it's usually going to show in the team as well. Like the top, the really IT companies usually, depending on how self-critical they are, they will know where to put the good people and where to put the people like the consultants who just like barely passed the bar that they got at a bargain at some sweatshop somewhere. And that's not where you want to be. You don't want to be in the sweatshop team where like they really only have that team until they can get rid of you or something changes where they are no longer necessary. So that's why I have that as the third one. So what I want you to take away from this is that there is no way for me to tell you what team to pick, because I'm looking at this with my eyes. But what I can tell you is that I have 3 things that I always consider when I pick a team in a company if I have the choice. And I do the same thing when I have the interviews and so forth whenever I go to any company. And that's why I'm very happy to be where I am right now, because this specific team ticks all 3 boxes for me. Number 1, what will develop me the most? So find somewhere where you will work with relevant tools or things that are interesting to you, or things that will develop you, so that will be useful to you if you go to another job. Number 2, what is the state of the team? Are you going to work with experienced, good people? Are you going to work with idiots who know nothing about anything and so forth? And if that is the case, are you going to be their manager? Because then it might work, but otherwise it's just going to be a really bad situation. Because unfortunately, when you work at scale, you need team members to collaborate with each other. That is great if everybody is sort of on the same page, and it's a nightmare if there's a vast difference in personalities and experience. Number 3, what is the importance of the project? If you get to work on a small time project as a satellite office somewhere, who knows if you're going to get that and you're going to keep that job for longer than a few months, a year, something like that. And odds are that your career is going to stop within that company, because it's like because the only thing that you can do in order to move somewhere else is to either hope that project becomes a success, and then maybe you'll get to be a manager, or maybe you'll get promoted within that sphere there, or you're going to have to move to some other project. So picking a project that is as close as possible to the critical business of the company is a very good investment, because if you do that, that means that you get the most valuable domain knowledge, not only for like the industry, but also for the company itself. Your value within the company goes up by quite a lot. And finally, that means that you now know about the most important parts, and that gives you a chance to actually go and become a manager or like progress fairly quickly, because you are increasing your value at the company. So if you can get all these 3 things, that is a very good place to be. Have a great day.